The state of Illinois has the second highest amount of property taxes in the entire country. Now, what their proposal is to tax millionaires by 3% to fund property tax relief. And it is an idiotic idea. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. So I have an interesting topic for you today, and it has to do with the great state of Illinois, where Chicago is located. Obviously, Chicago is a wonderful city. Now, don't believe everything you see on the news. I absolutely love visiting Chicago. I've been there many times. It has one of the best downtowns I've ever seen, beautiful skyline. I've been up the Sears Tower, the John Hancock building, or I guess the Sears Tower is called the Willis Tower now, but you get the point. Been down the Magnificent Mile up on Lakeshore Drive. I've run up and down and went swimming in the lake, Lake Michigan. I love going to Chicago. The problem, though, is the taxes are too high. I would probably live up there if it wasn't for all the bureaucratic nonsense, all of the high taxes, and all of the outrageous, too far to the left policies, okay? It is insane. And all I really want to do is I want to de-stress. And the problem is, if I lived up there, I'd be stressed out all the time. So what they're proposing is a millionaire tax. And I believe it is for people who have an income of over $1 million per year. And they want to tax those people 3%. So if you make $1 million a year, they'd be taxing you $30,000 per year in millionaire tax. And that is to provide property tax relief. That's what they say. Now, I want to remind the people who may not watch all the business news, but I believe there was a gentleman named Ken Griffin, okay, and multi-billionaire, one of the richest people in the entire world. His corporate headquarters was located in Chicago. And you know what he did? He picked up everything and moved the entire business to Florida because he was absolutely sick of the high taxes and the way they treated their businesses in the state of Illinois. And that is exactly what will happen if they pass this stupid law. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. So what do you think the result would be if Illinois were to pass a millionaire's tax? Do you think that the millionaires would just sit and pay it? Or do you think they would leave? Okay? I know personally, I would leave. I would take my business elsewhere. If I am doing that well, and I assume these are a lot of people who are making that much money are entrepreneurs and business owners, right? And I realize that some of them won't be able to leave, but you have to figure out a way to offset, okay, offset the losses that you could face. So, for example, maybe instead of making, especially if you're close to that $1 million mark, maybe you could figure it out so that you, instead of making $1 million, you make $999,000 so that you don't have to pay that 30 grand in tax. Okay? So, just a thought. Maybe there's a way you can donate money and then, get a tax credit. Who knows? But basically, millionaires, the wealthiest people in this country, they have a way of paying lawyers, paying accountants, paying the right people who know the laws in order to help them lower their taxable income. And that is exactly what will happen. If it means they have to move, well, they also have the greatest ability to move, So we'll see if by raising a tax like this, they could actually end up losing income or tax money, okay? So anyway, let me get into this article, explain the whole situation. This article is coming from thecentersquare.com, and it says, Quinn continues millionaire surcharge push for Illinois property tax relief. Yeah, apparently they want to appeal to the common person by claiming that this is going to lower property taxes. We'll see about that. Anyway, let's get into the article. Former Illinois Governor Pat Quinn continues to push for voters to approve non-binding question on the November 5th ballot to bring about a millionaire surcharge. Illinoisans pay the second highest property taxes in the United States, according to multiple nationwide surveys. The total amount paid annually by Illinois property taxpayers is $23.2 billion, according to Quinn. With early voting ongoing, one of the advisory questions voters are being asked is whether those making more than $1 million should be taxed an additional 3% to pay for a fund for property tax relief. The unfortunate thing is there's no money in the Property Tax Relief Trust Fund, Quinn told reporters at a news conference in Springfield on Wednesday. It has never been appropriated any money to give out these annual rebates. Property taxes, they're a big issue, right? And a lot of the property taxes the reason that people pay such high property taxes is because we're talking about aging infrastructure in big cities such as Chicago, right? They have very old infrastructure and a very large area. So I'm one of those people who believes that smaller government, it would actually help things. Instead of having large mega cities, instead maybe smaller local neighborhoods could be their own towns. So like in the case of Chicago, which has a population near 3 million, instead of having one giant mega city ruled over by a mayor and a gigantic police force with tens of thousands of officers and all that, you could have smaller towns where they can make decisions quicker. They could focus on a much smaller area, so they won't need as much money. They won't need as just the sort of resources that large, huge government needs. So I think that part of the problem, the reason the taxes and everything are so high, is because they're also bogged down by all these old lawsuits and all these old, think about all the payouts. City of Chicago has paid hundreds of millions of dollars in payouts to people who have sued them. Well, you know what? Smaller towns don't have those issues. So, I don't know. On a large scale, the problem can't be solved. They're not going to just give up and say, we're going to cut this city down into smaller pieces. They will fight to the death to make sure that never happens. But on a small scale, the problem can be solved, okay? Individually. Be that, my family, I can pick my family up and I say, I don't have to live here. I don't have to live here in Chicago or in New York, or if you don't like Miami, you don't have to live in Miami or Houston or Dallas. You can live wherever you want. This is a large country with a lot of different states and cities, etc. And you know what? These millionaires, these billionaires, they are going to move and they are going to leave. And it might be at first they say, okay, we're going to leave the city of Chicago and we're going to move over to a suburb over here in Cook County. It's the same county, so it won't be too big of a move. Or they might say, we're going to move outside of the county to one of the surrounding counties that's still in Illinois. Or they might say, hey, we're going to move over here to Indiana or Wisconsin, the surrounding states, because the taxes over there are too high. Or they might just say, we're going to pick up and we're going to move to the other side of the country. You never know, okay? There are a lot of good reasons why people move all the time. I've moved across the country twice. I've lived in 4 different states. It's pretty, it's difficult when you're first transitioning, but you can't tell me that these people who make way more money than I do, they wouldn't consider it if they thought, hey, I'm going to be losing all this money and I'm going to be demonized and, I'm already struggling. So anyway, I'll put a link to this article in the description down below. Let me know what you think of this whole proposal to tax millionaires, to relieve property taxes. Do you think this is a good idea or bad?